Hi, everybody. This is Kate Haley with Glazer's Camera. We are back for another live session this evening featuring a wedding and portrait photographer based out of the DC area, Michelle Harris, who's a Sigma ambassador. Before we get started on that, just a couple of quick reminders. As usual, during this event, we are encouraging you to sign up for these events so you can get the follow-up emails with whatever special promotions might be happening. Many of these are only available for 1 or 2 or 3 days. So you don't want to delay in getting those notices to save a few bucks here or there on whatever gear and whatever we might be focusing on at that time. During the session, if you have some questions, please feel free to post those in the comments on Facebook or on our YouTube channel so that we can do a little bit of Q&A throughout the session. But without further ado, we're going to get rolling here. I'd love to introduce Michelle Harris. Michelle, I've been in your Facebook group now for I think a week or two, and I love the activity in there. So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about you and your work, and then we can dive into your presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. And like actually most of the first like 3 or 4 slides are about me. So should I just show those?
Yes. Yes, totally do that.
Okay? Is that all right if I just start there?
Absolutely. That's perfect. Yeah.
All right, perfect. 1 second. Let me pull this right up. All right. So a little bit about me is I actually started my company in 2015. And it's M Hair Studios, and it has now moved into photo and video, and is way more expensive than it was when I first started in 2015. But I started my company because I really needed a side hustle, and I had just gotten married, and I was actually miserable, like really miserable. So I was like, I want to try to do something that will like make me happy outside, and I thought that I wanted to be a newborn photographer. But that was an epic fail. I it was okay, but it didn't fulfill me at all. It didn't make me happy at all. But I knew I still wanted to do something in photography and provide something for me and my little girls, because that's what I was really focused on, was my 2 babies. And I did my first wedding in actually like March of 2015. And then by September of 2015, I figured out how I'd like to shoot and got my style down and started making moves. And I actually quit my job 10 months after starting my business, which now I actually would go back and not do that. Like, don't quit your job in October if you're a wedding photographer. It's like literally like the dumbest thing that I've done. But the thing about it is I really quit because my ex-husband told me it was the stupidest thing that I was ever going to do, that like to leave corporate America was dumb. And like, you know, you have this cushy job and this insurance and stuff, and this is stupid. And so to prove him wrong, I quit and didn't look back at all. So in 2016, I did 25 weddings, and it was only my second year shooting and my first year full time, but I just started shooting weddings starting at $2,500. Like, I wasn't afraid, even though like most people in their second year would be like, I don't really know, you know, still starting at like 1,500, things like that, and second guessing, but I just shot my prices up and just kept shooting. So in January of 2017, I made my ex-husband get out because there was nothing but negativity around all the time. And I couldn't stand it anymore, so he had to go. And the last thing that he told me was I was like moving my business into a destination wedding. And he told me that that was another stupid thing that I thought that I should be doing. Because like, why would someone hire you to shoot in another country? There are photographers everywhere. So he had to get out, and I became a destination wedding photographer to prove him wrong. Like, everything I did those first couple of years was like, oh, you think I can't do this? Well, I'm going to do it, and you're gonna have to watch me do it. So I then became a destination wedding photographer. And on top of that, I then created my second company in 2017. So I have an associate team named Layla Chanel Studios. And it's named after my oldest daughter because she says that she wants to be a wedding photographer, but she's 9. So we'll see how long this this last, but in the meantime, she has this company and she can do what she wants with it when she gets older. But I'm really, really into empowering women because of the negative experience that I went through in my first couple of years of building my business to get where I am now. So my associate team is all women, and they are all absolutely incredible. So now in my life, I have an incredible husband who supports me, and not only supports me, loves my kids, and just is incredible. We also shoot photo and video together. So now we are making moves and no negativity. And we have all these wonderful, amazing people around us and doing all the things. So now I speak at all the different conferences all around the world and still shoot weddings everywhere, and am now a Sigma ambassador. So here's my little Sigma video. All right, okay, was that too much of the introduction for you of who I am? Like, can I go into talking about my topic, or do you want to stop and ask any other questions or anything like that?
Oh no, that was fantastic.
Okay.
I loved hearing your story. It's really kind of real, and I love your positive outlook and supporting of women and just in general, as a female photographer as well. Yeah, there's been some challenges in my life too, so I love hearing that. Like I said, your Facebook group is just filled with so much love and support. It's really amazing to see that. So with that said, let's dive on into that presentation.
All right, let's get it. Okay, so I feel like this is how everyone feels about 2020, okay? But we are gonna make the most of 2020 with just talking to our clients about all the things that they actually can do, because there's tons of my brides who are coming to me like, oh, I'm moving to next year, or I don't know, maybe I'll keep it this year. But if I keep it this year, then like, what are my options? I'll probably only do a little ceremony. And they're just like trying to make it so that they're like, oh, let's do as little as possible this year, when you don't have to. Like, yes, 2020 sucks, but there are ways around it. And there are still ways to capture gorgeous moments and meaningful moments this year in their life. So it's your job as a photographer to walk them through all the options they can have. If they have their wedding this year or early next year, still, we'll probably still be in the same situation. So we're gonna walk through each and every step of the wedding day and how to explain to your clients that they can still have gorgeous moments right now. You just have to adjust it a little bit. And you have to adjust how you shoot it and what lenses you shoot it with. So we're gonna go through all of that. So I'm going to go over all the options using one single wedding that I just shot in July, because this is Alex and Aiden, and I shot their engagement session last year, and she was supposed to have her wedding in May, and she moved it to July. It was like, we all think, oh, just move a couple months, it'll be fine, it'll be fine, and then we just keep moving it. But she's like, no, I really want to get married on July 11th. How can we make this work? So I walked her through each and every step, because she had a guest list of well over like 150. And I was like, listen, Alex, if we're gonna do this in 2020, you have to cut this down like way, way, way down if you're gonna keep it. But we can make it work like within your budget, and you can still have all the gorgeous images that you want to have. So we started crafting a plan. She ended up having 10 guests, plus the two of them and me and my husband shooting photo for them. And that's it. And we were able to create the same wedding day. So let's get started into how we can get this done. So when they want to make their wedding a little bit smaller because of 2020, it has absolutely nothing to do with the details. Like, nothing at all. You can still have the same bouquet, the shoes, the rings, like all of the same things can still be photographed beautifully, the same way as if there were 150 people waiting at the ceremony. And you have to keep reminding them that the only difference in this day is that there's not a large number of people waiting for you. It has nothing to do with anything prior to ceremony. So you can still get all these same details and you can put them all together and make them work. Like you wouldn't know that this was an elopement any different than a full-blown wedding because of the details. So you have to kind of encourage them though, because they may not want to, or they're not going to think, oh, let me go get an invitation, just one invitation, because in 2020 you're probably still doing like invitations virtually with all the changes of dates and things like that. But you get one invitation that does have your new wedding date on it and have it for the photographer. But they're not going to be thinking about this thing. So you have to tell them to bring these things, bring your shoe stuff. So bring, an invitation, anything that means something to you. We're still going to like make sure your rings are in one place, no different than preparing for a big wedding. So now the difference for getting ready is the lenses that I was able to use here, because I am absolutely obsessed with my Sigma 20mm 1.4. And people think I'm crazy. It's like, what do you mean your favorite lens is this super wide lens? But like, I'm obsessed. I personally don't love something much wider. And I have tighter things, but my 20mm gives me so much life during regular wedding. Now, if you have enough space, like the bottom right picture, then you can still use this 20 for getting ready if you do. But she got ready in her parents' home and there was not this much space. So what we did is I used a mixture of my 85 and my 35 for these photos. This is her parents' living room. Now we had to rearrange things. So even for regular weddings, you have to be confident enough to just walk into a room and start moving things, because that's what I do. Like, I'm like, okay, well, we need to move this here. Somebody come get your bag. Is this your bag here? Let's move this out of the way. Like, you have to just command that things happen in a nice way, but like you have to make things happen, especially in elopements, because they're not thinking about the things that you're thinking about. If they had got a hotel and we're getting married in a hotel, moving on or whatever, then they also wouldn't have to think. You still have to walk into the hotel and make moves. So I had to do this in her parents' living room. And I made sure that her mom and herself had these special moments. So I was able to shoot them from the same exact little section of her living room and get beautiful pictures of her and her mom getting her ready. Let's see. Also, I took a little time with my 35 and I had her put her shoes on right there in that living room. And I literally made her hug her mom. And it seems silly, but like there are times where people just don't think about these things. Like they're just like, oh, okay, zip up the dress. And they're like, all right, now what? And you have to tell them to hug each other, because these moments are still going to be important. And I'm going to take like a little tangent and explain why these moments mean so much to me here. Because I just got married a year and a half ago. And it was last March, and I made sure to plan out all these little tiny moments with people. So I'm actually adopted, and I made sure to take time to have a first look with my birth mother, my adopted mother, and then my husband's mother all at the same time. And of course, that only actually took 10 minutes out of my day, but those photos mean more to me than like my ceremony photos. And that, being honest, because 2 months after my wedding, my mother just passed away out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. So like you can't go back and get these moments. And it's like we think that, oh, we all have, oh, she'll be fine and she'll be here. Like, okay, we got a couple pictures, it's fine. But if you were in my shoes, you'd start to look at things differently. So I now make sure, I don't care how you feel about your parents. Like I am like, well, you're still going to sit here and you're going to take at least these couple of pictures with your mom and your dad, and you're going to take one with your mom and your dad. Because I don't have certain pictures because I wasn't thinking about like couples together and things like that. And I feel kind of bad because I didn't take time to make sure that my mom had photos with her husband on our wedding day, because it's my day. But I still now wish I could go back and have those for him. So like there are little things that I make sure happen, whether they're thinking about these things or not. And it's like, okay, if you don't use this picture, you don't use it, but you have it. I can't go back and take it if I don't take it. So I make these moments happen. So you know what? These are all the same moments, whether it's a huge wedding or a small one. You also can encourage them to exchange letters because that's free. So there's really no excuse. They just have to sit down and write something, or exchange gifts. So this is in the exact same place. And I use my 50 and my 85, so I can give her a little bit of space. But I was able to get some pretty tight shots of her opening her gift and her emotion here. And then my husband was at the hotel with Aiden, with him getting ready, and shot this on our 50 millimeter. So he's kind of like in a wind, like close to the window in a hotel where he's getting ready. Obviously, there's not a lot of space. We had to make that work. But if you don't prompt them to do this, then they may not have been in another wedding to see that this even happens. So like, this is something that you have to walk them through. So parents' first looks, because they won't always be there, which I just already explained why I feel so strongly about this. So, I mean, and he didn't really have the best reaction. Like, that was his reaction. Like, it was just like, oh, hey, all right, thanks for my gift. But these are still like moments that she will cherish, because she wasn't going to do this. She had a gift and she was like, hey, can you just go give this to my dad? And I was like, no, I'm going to have your dad come down here and you can give it to him. And she's like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, we can do that. And so now we have these photos. And yes, I had to tell them to hug, but it's a hug. So they're going to be very excited about having this photo. So even if you have to make it happen, they are still cherishable moments. So this is, these are the moments that I had with my mom on the day of my wedding. So this is not even talking about the first look that I told you about. This is where I took time and I wrote letters to each of my moms beforehand, and I gave it to them before they got their makeup done, so I didn't want to hear their mouths about them crying, because I knew they were all going to cry. So I gave her these letters, and I have these photos, and they mean the world to me. So this is why I make these things happen for my clients. So even though they're having less guests, it doesn't mean that they can't still do a first look or first touch. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I genuinely despise first touches. I'm not going to lie. Yes, these are beautiful, but like just let me take your pictures together. Like, why are you making me wait? But whatever, if they want to do this, we make it pretty and we shoot it this way. So these I shot with 3 different lenses. On the left-hand side is my 35, in the middle is my 85, and then on the right is my 50. And I shoot with 2 cameras, so it was real easy for me to like move those and just switch one lens while they just stand there, because they don't do anything for first touches. They literally just do that. So there's only so many ways to shoot a first look, but you just have to remind them that it can still be done, whether there's 10 or 150 people waiting for them inside this church. So this is where they got married, in the church. And there were, oh, and this is my 20 millimeter. Just want to throw that in there. I'm obsessed with my Sigma 20 1.4. But these were all the guests. This is the whole wedding that you're looking at behind them. I'm obsessed with this picture. I shot this with my 85. Because it's a really, really big church, and I wanted the depth of field. They don't need to be in focus. You can see that they're there. Unfortunately, one of them was taking a picture with a cell phone. But it's fine. It's fine because you shot it with 85 and I shot it at like 2.5. So this can obviously still be equally as beautiful. You don't need to have all the pews filled up for this moment to matter. So after this, I took them outside. This is the whole wedding in a photo. And yeah, it still took us like a good 30 minutes because she wanted so many different combinations of these people. But I loved it. I loved every second of it. So this I shot with my 35. And don't be afraid to put people where they don't think they should be, because I was putting them here where the sun was hitting their back, and like they kept looking over their shoulder like, you see all these cars and all this other stuff, but like just do what you feel is best, because behind me the sun was blasting on the church door and it really would have been terrible. But these people felt like they knew better than me for a little bit and we're literally like, don't you want to do the door? No, I don't. Over here, okay, thanks. Okay, like you have to direct them through it. You have to remember that you are the expert, no matter how many people try to tell you what to do. So after this, we still took time for family photos, and then we also did portraits of them, obviously. So right here, this is my 20 millimeter. Again, it's one of my favorite shots. I get really, really low and tilt my camera upward. There's no other lens that does this for me. I'm obsessed with that. But yeah, so that's my 20. And then this is done with my 35. I literally just held the veil out and shot with my 35 right there. I mean, it's pretty simple and easy. And we got a whole bunch of different portraits in this time. And I'm obsessed with under the veil shots. And I have found that under the veil shots are best with my 35. Like I've tried my 50 thinking I'll get like more of an intimate, but like when you have the 35, it gives you just enough veil and just enough of them to get the emotion that you want and for people to even understand what's happening. So I think the 35 is best for that. All right, so after the ceremony, the photos, which all of this has transpired in the same like timeline as every other wedding. It doesn't matter, there was only 10 people. Then they set up an intimate dinner inside their parents' home. So they rented this one table, they already had the other, and just put some things that, I mean, really didn't even cost that much on this table. I mean, there's really pretty just, some cloth and candles and some pretty little flowers and made it work. Like this is absolutely perfect. And in here, I believe this is my 35 on the left and my 50 on the right. But we were able to get plenty of little details, no different than any other wedding. So their wedding was on 7-Eleven, so they got little Slurpees. And I shot this over here with my 50, and that's like one of their absolute favorite photos. And then like we still had the whole rest of the ceremony, no different. I mean, the reception, no different than any other day. They still had toast, they still had dances. This is just in their little backyard. It's like literally a little circle patio. So Nate went up like on their little deck thing and shot down. This is the reception. Like these moments where they're dancing together are still extremely memorable and can happen as long as they just accept that it has to be a little bit smaller. And you have to shoot a little different, but I mean, they're not missing anything. They feel like they had the absolute best day. All their moments were captured. And we even had sparkler exits. And they're back. That's it. The whole wedding. They just held up one sparkler. It wasn't dark, obviously. So they don't care. And then so like they did their exit, which was just them standing there dipping pretty much. I think they walked for a couple photos. I took them to the side and took a couple pictures of them with the sparklers. And that was under the day, but that was still 8 full hours of a wedding. And like, there's no reason that everyone can't do this. I mean, there are people who are still holding on to the fact they need everybody in their family on both sides and their parents, friends, and all the other things. Now, if they don't let go of their guest list, then you're just gonna have to do what you gotta do. But if they are trying to make it into a very small occasion, you can explain to them how, even though it's small, they can still get a full-blown wedding and all the memories that they planned on getting this year and get it done. So if you change your lenses throughout the day, you can change your gallery, because as you've seen, every part of this wedding I shot with different lenses, and I shoot with prime lenses. I'm obsessed with them. Not really, like I'm obsessed with the low aperture, and I can't let go. So I shoot everything with prime sigma lenses. And that's it. That's the whole wedding day and how you can shoot with different lenses and make it work in 2020. So hopefully there might be a couple questions in there.
Well, let's find out. So you guys tuning in, do you have any questions? There are comments coming in. They love the veil shots, of course, and just general, they love that whole wedding overall and that it was a gorgeous wedding. But I think that you really bring up a really valid point. When things started shutting down and all of a sudden nobody was booking anything, my primary focus is on headshots and portraits. That definitely took a really steep dive and been trying to like get that ramped up again. And it's just, I think that, we're, well, I'm just thinking about the fact that, you're out there and you're doing what you were doing before and you're selling it the way you sold it before, but you're like, it's just fewer people. You're still putting in the work. You're still offering that value, that service, and putting in all that time, like you just said. And I think that it got real easy for us to forget that the time that we're putting into whatever the thing is that we're capturing or creating, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's just so little amount of differences. Like there's just less people to worry about walking off the cocktail hour when you need them in the family photos. Like
Right,
that's the only difference. If they can lower their guest count, because that's really what the struggle is
right.
trying to get them to make it a more intimate occasion. But I
Yeah,
mean, if you show them how they can still have the moments they want and make it intimate, then they might be a little bit more likely to do it. But like we're
right.
the experts, so if we don't walk them through this, their family has no idea what they're talking about, whether they're giving
Right.
them advice or not. They don't know.
Yeah,
They're just like, let's just do it next year, or do a little something this year and then do the party next year.
right.
It's like, for
But
what? Just
well,
get
but
married with.
also, when do we know that it's going to be okay to have a 100-person party? We kind of don't, or
We
more.
literally don't have a
Yeah,
clue
we don't
at
have a
all. Because,
clue.
like, I have a wedding photography conference myself, and it's supposed to be in San Diego, and it was supposed to be in April, and I moved
Oh
it to
yeah.
August. And I was like, yeah, that's plenty of time. And then
Hmm.
now, obviously, in June, I moved it to next April. And I'm like,
Right.
yeah, that's plenty of time. And now I'm like, is it plenty of time?
Yeah.
Because
We
there's
don't
100
know.
photographers coming. So
Right.
I don't know if San Diego's gonna let me do this. So I know that they have to be feeling the same way about their weddings.
Yeah.
Or they should
Yeah.
be.
So one person does ask, how do you reassure them that a little goes a long way? Um, should we show them a micro wedding gallery? And to me, that would seem like a really great way to do that. I mean, doing what you just did was showing that was a micro wedding, but it still was the 8-hour day. It still had all those key shots that you're looking for out of a day like that. Um, what are your thoughts there? How do you put your clients at ease when they're worried about that?
I mean, well, I think the most important part is not really like how to show them. It's more important to pick up the phone and have a conversation with them. Like I
Yeah,
don't think that this type of thing should be talked about like via email or like a whole bunch of like blog post links to make them read
yeah,
a whole bunch of things. I think it needs to be a conversation because if these people booked you, they trust you to walk them through this. And in 2020, like people were super disconnected. So like you should pick up the phone or maybe even go on Zoom and talk
yeah.
to them through the whole thing, just like I talked to you guys through the whole thing.
Right,
Like walk them through. Hey, you can still get this moment. Look, you were thinking about seeing your dad for the first time. What difference does it make this year? Like if we push it to next year, why would you wait until next year to do a first look with your dad? It doesn't make
right,
any sense.
right.
And I mean,
And
not everyone
then
has a
what are you
story
waiting
like me.
for? Just do it.
Right. Like
Yeah,
now is the time.
just
Like
literally
you
just do it.
literally don't know if they're gonna make it to next year. Why would you wait for that? And what about this year is gonna change your details? Like you have to just walk them through it the same way I walked you guys through the
Right.
day.
Yeah.
And to do it on the phone or virtually in person, however you want to do it. But I don't think it should be via email or like with a PDF or something like that. It's a personal thing that you need to walk them through.
No, I agree fully on that. Normally, for any, when I get the email or even an Instagram message, right? Someone
Mhm.
who's interested in booking a shoot, that used to be a meeting at a coffee shop, but now it's totally a conversation on the phone to make sure that, we get to know each other a little bit and figure out what their needs are and make sure that honestly, like I'm the right fit for them and they like me and we all get along. Because for me, like creating portraits of people is not just like click, 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 it's a relationship, it's a friendship, there's a bond, there's trust. So having those conversations on the phone or doing a Zoom or something like that is definitely a great way to get people engaged, and honestly, like to get those bookings, in my experience.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, no, I mean, it's just, and then, people tell you things, you're like, I don't know why I told you that. And it's like, well, we're getting to know each other. It's okay, don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Anyhow,
it's okay. Tell me all the things, but I'm here for this.
yeah.
Can I stop
Okay.
sharing?
Oh, yeah, you can stop sharing.
Okay, my bad.
Does anybody else have any questions for those of you tuning in? Um, Otherwise, we're going to be wrapping this up. So I know you have this amazing Facebook group. Can we share that out to the folks? Do you want to tell people a little bit about your Facebook group? Because it's so
Absolutely.
supportive.
Well, thank you. I try. I love my group so much. So it's a M Harris Hustlers, and now it says wedding and boudoir education because I
I saw
started
that.
doing boudoir like 3 months ago, and I'm now obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And I'm actually pretty grateful to 2020 because I feel like, or I know for a fact that if 2020 hadn't happened, I would have never slowed down enough to even think about becoming a student again
Mm,
to like learn about a whole nother genre. I'm like, for what? I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. But like now I'm like, well, I kind of do have
right.
this. And I got a studio in February, which was perfect timing. And so I was like, oh, I'm gonna rent it out for parties and events and stuff. And then so it was February, and then March happened. So then now I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I can't have parties in there, but I'll learn how to shoot boudoir. So now I added boudoir to it, and I'm not like teaching on boudoir. I'm like, there are other educators in there, so if you have questions about boudoir, they can help you
Yeah.
too, and eventually I'll be able to help. But it's wedding and boudoir education. M Harris Hustlers.
Yeah. It's a great little group. We, Michelle and I talked on the phone, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, and she added me in there. And of all the Facebook groups that I'm in, it's definitely the most supportive and active in a really positive way. And I think that's really something we need more of in the industry these days. So I'm appreciative of that for sure. Well, for those of you tuning in, if you guys don't have any more questions, then I think we're going to wrap this session up. I know we're a little bit sad to do that. Michelle, I want to thank you so much for your time. I know you flew in from a different conference this morning, and you're probably ready for bed because it's late on the East Coast.
But
But
I took a 5 hour nap, so it's fine.
oh, nice. I'm ready for that nap, I'll tell you what. But I want to thank you so much, and thank you to Sigma for having you here. And for those of you tuning in, we're not done. We have more sessions hosted by Sigma tomorrow. We have 2 more sessions, one on video and one on pet photography. So lots of ways to up your game. Think about different lenses. I love that you shared all those lens choices. I too am a prime girl, so I only use primes. So I have a love for anything that'll go to 1.4 or 1.2 for sure.
Oh,
But again, Michelle, thank you so much for you guys tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow at noon with a session on creating video. Check out the full schedule at glazerscamera.com/anniversary. Be sure to sign up for events so you get those follow-up emails with the special super secret deals only available by signing up or coming into the store to shop. And unfortunately, you can't come in tonight because the store just closed, but we'll be back open tomorrow at 9 a.m. So Michelle, thank you again. Aaron hanging out on the Zoom call with us, thank you as well. And thank you to all of you who tuned in for this session tonight. Enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you so much.